Chosen one. Someone looked you in the eye after hurting you in ways that still live in your body and called you the villain. They hurt you and then turned the entire story around. They cried the tears you deserved to cry. They told the version of events where you were the aggressor, the unstable one, the person to be worried about. And somehow the world around you began to believe it. You watched it happen and felt the specific, disorienting horror of having your reality stolen. Not your possessions, not your position, your reality. The account of what actually happened replaced by their account, and you were left standing in the wreckage of someone else's lie, holding evidence no one asked to see. Chosen one, I need to be precise about what was done to you, because there is a difference between being hurt and being hurt, then made to feel guilty for the wound. Both are painful, but the second one carries a particular kind of spiritual weight that is almost impossible to describe unless you have lived it. You did not just lose the relationship or the friendship or the trust. You lost your credibility in the story. You became the defendant in a trial you did not know was happening. And you had to keep going, keep showing up to work, keep smiling, keep explaining yourself while carrying a wound that no one could see, because the person who gave it to you had already told everyone it was self-inflicted. Chosen one, what was done to you has a name, and the God who names all things has seen it. Chosen one. Before I go any further, if someone has hurt you and then performed victimhood in front of the people who should have protected you, I need you to type 3 words in the comments right now. Type I was there, not as a slogan, not casually, as a declaration, a public statement that you know what happened, that you were present for the truth even when no one else believed it. Type I was there, and then stay with me, because what God is about to reveal in this season is going to reframe everything that felt like your failure. It was never your failure. Type it now. I was there. Chosen one. I know the particular exhaustion of gaslighting, not the word, the experience. The experience of leaving a conversation more confused than when you entered it, of questioning whether your memory is reliable, of going back over events again and again, looking for the moment where you must have misunderstood, because surely no one could have done what they did with that kind of deliberate intention. And so you give them the benefit of the doubt, again and again. And every time you do, the story shifts a little further from what you know to be true. I know the moment you began to wonder if you were the problem. I know the moment the self-questioning became louder than your certainty. And I want to tell you, what happened in that moment was not you losing your mind. It was you being subjected to one of the oldest and most spiritually sophisticated attacks that exists. You were not weak. You were targeted. Chosen one. I know the loneliness of being disbelieved, the specific isolation of telling the truth to someone and watching their eyes cloud with skepticism because the other person got there first, because the other person's tears were convincing. Because the performance of victimhood is designed to be convincing, it is calibrated to produce exactly that doubt in exactly the people whose belief matters most to you, and you watched it work in real time. You watched the people you needed pull back from you, or grow careful around you, or begin to look at you differently. And the grief of that, the grief of losing the trust of people you loved, not because of anything you did, but because of what someone said you did, that is a specific kind of grief that does not get enough honoring in the church. But God honors it. He sees it. He has been recording every moment of it. Chosen one. I also know the weight of carrying what they put down, because here is the cruelest part of what was done to you. They committed the injury and walked away from it. They handed the weight of it to you through the narrative they built. And now you are the one managing the emotional labor, the explaining, the justifying, the proving, while they have been freed by their own lie. You are tired, chosen one, not because you are weak, because you have been carrying something that was never yours to carry. And today, in this message, in this hour, God is asking you to put it down, not to forgive prematurely, not to pretend the wound did not exist, but to release the burden of proof, because the burden of proof never belonged to you. It was always His, chosen one. I want to bring a voice into this conversation, a voice from the past that speaks with a precision that most modern voices cannot match. C.S. Lewis was not a man given to sentimentality about human nature. He was too honest for that. He had sat in the trenches of a world war. He had watched civilization commit atrocities with great sophistication and great self-justification. He had studied the human capacity for self-deception from the inside because he had experienced it himself. And out of that hard-won clarity, he wrote things about moral law and human conscience that I believe speak directly to what was done to you and what is happening now to the one who did it. In Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis wrote something that I need you to hear today. He was writing about the moral law, the internal law that every human being carries, whether they acknowledge it or not. He wrote that when someone breaks the moral law, they do not actually erase the knowledge of having broken it. They suppress it. They build narratives around it. They recruit allies to help them maintain the revised version of events. But the knowledge itself, the actual memory of what they did and why they did it, remains. Lewis put it this way: the moral law is not something that people can simply ignore when it becomes inconvenient. It is written into the architecture of what it means to be human, and the person who violated it knows what they did. They may have convinced everyone around them, but they have not convinced the part of themselves that was there. They were there, chosen one, and so was God, chosen one. Here is what this means for your situation. The person who hurt you and played victim is not as free as their performance suggests. The audience may have believed the act, but the actor knows the script was false. And according to Lewis, and more importantly, according to the God Lewis was pointing toward, that knowledge does not evaporate. It goes underground. It works quietly in the architecture of their inner life. They carry what they did to you, not as punishment, not yet, but as the weight of a truth that their own conscience has never been able to fully extinguish. The performance was for the audience, but there is no audience in the middle of the night. And in the middle of the night, chosen one, what they know is very different from what they told. Chosen one. Let me show you how this works in practice. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 17, God draws a clear line. A false witness tells lies. A false witness, not a mistaken witness, not a confused witness. A false one, a witness who knows the truth and speaks something else. There is a word for that in the courts of heaven, chosen one. And the God who says that word also says in Proverbs 26, verse 26, though their hatred is concealed by deception, their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Not might be, will be. The person who constructed the false narrative about you may have won the first audience, but there is a second audience coming, and that audience is assembled by God. Think for a moment about Absalom, the son of David. Absalom had been genuinely wronged. His sister Tamar was violated by their half-brother Amnon, and David did not act. The original wound was real, but what Absalom did with that wound became something else entirely. He planted himself at the city gate and spent years stealing the hearts of the people one by one, presenting himself as the empathetic leader, the understanding prince, the one who truly cared, all while planning his father's overthrow. He played the victim of a negligent king to an entire nation, and the performance was flawless. but the intention behind it was the destruction of the man who loved him. Chosen one, the pattern is ancient. The one who hurt you and then claimed your wound as their own is walking a path that has a known destination, and it is not the destination they believe they are heading toward. And chosen one, while Absalom was performing at the city gate, David was praying. Do you understand what that means? While the false narrative was spreading, while the audience was being built, while the credibility of the righteous one was being systematically dismantled, God was receiving the prayers of the targeted one. Every prayer you have prayed in confusion, in grief, in the exhaustion of being disbelieved, every one of those prayers has been received. Not one has been lost. Not one has been dismissed as too small or too wounded or too broken to be heard. God heard you. God hears you. And He has been preparing His response since the first time you cried out, chosen one. You are still here. And that means something. Not everyone who has been through what you have been through is still believing. Not everyone is still praying. Not everyone still has the capacity to receive a word like this one, because the attack was designed to remove that capacity. But you are here, which means the attack did not fully succeed, which means there is still something in you that knows, even through the confusion, even through the disorientation, even through the grief of being disbelieved, that the truth exists, that what happened, happened, that the God who sees all things has seen this. If you are still here, type I was there in the comments right now. I want to see how many chosen ones are in this space today. How many people are carrying this specific wound? How many people have survived an attack that tried to steal not just their peace, but their version of reality? Type I was there. Let the algorithm see you. Let the spiritual atmosphere in this space hear the sound of the witness declaring that they were present for the truth. Type it now, and then stay with me, because the next part of this message is about what God was doing while all of it was happening, and what He is about to do now, chosen one. I want to tell you something about the room where it happened. The room where they hurt you, or the conversation where the words were spoken, or the space where the decision was made to rewrite what you know to be true. God was there. He was not distracted. He was not occupied with something more significant. He was present fully, completely, with the same attention He gives to every sparrow that falls, and He saw every moment of it. In Luke chapter 8, verse 17, Jesus says something that I need you to hold. There is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Chosen one, this is not a comfort verse to be read quickly and moved past. This is a law of the universe. Truth does not disappear when it is denied. It goes underground and it waits. And the God who authored that law is the same God who was standing in the room with you when the lie was being built. Chosen one. The heavenly record is not a metaphor. In the economy of God, the actual operational reality of how He governs this universe, nothing done in secret against His people is lost or forgotten. Every tear you have cried in confusion over what was done to you has been collected. Every prayer you have whispered in your car, asking God if He saw what happened, has been received and logged in a record that no human narrative can alter. Psalm 56, verse 8, God collects your tears in a bottle. He records your lament in His book. This is not poetry about an absent God. This is the operational reality of a God who is intimately engaged with the details of what His people endure. The record of what was done to you exists in a place where no one can reach it to revise it. And that record is the foundation of what is coming, chosen one. In the book of Numbers, chapter 32, verse 23, God speaks the sentence, I need to plant in your spirit today. He says, Be sure your sin will find you out. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is not a word of vengeance, and I am not asking you to receive it as one. This is a word about physics, spiritual physics. Truth is not destroyed by denial, it is compressed. And compressed truth has momentum. It moves toward the surface, not because you pushed it there, not because you prayed for judgment, but because the architecture of God's universe is built on the foundation of reality. What actually happened cannot be permanently replaced by what was said happened. The lie is under pressure from the truth that it displaced, and the pressure is building. Be sure, chosen one, the truth you know will find its way out. Chosen one. And here is the piece that Lewis would want you to understand. The person who played victim after hurting you has not silenced their conscience. They may have silenced you. They may have silenced the people around you, but their own conscience is not subject to the same pressure campaign they ran on the world, because God wrote the moral law into the architecture of every human soul, and it does not have an off switch that responds to performance. In the quiet moments, in the spaces where there is no audience to perform, for the thing they did to you is still there, not forgotten, not resolved, sitting in the place where unacknowledged truth always sits, waiting for the moment when the pressure of suppression becomes greater than the performance of denial. That moment is coming, chosen one. It is already in motion, chosen one. I want to return to C.S. Lewis one more time from a completely different angle. In the Screwtape Letters, Lewis imagined the correspondence between a senior demon and his younger apprentice. And what makes that book so unsettling, so precise, is that Lewis understood exactly how the enemy thinks. He understood the specific tactics used to distort reality in the mind of the targeted person. And one of Screwtape's most celebrated strategies is this: if you can make the human doubt the truth of their own experience, they will do your work for you. They will question themselves. They will apologize for being hurt. They will expend their energy managing their own confusion rather than standing in their truth. Chosen one, that strategy was used against you. The gaslighting was not random cruelty. It was a calculated spiritual warfare tactic designed to get you to dismantle your own case from the inside. Lewis put these words into Screwtape's instruction to his apprentice, and I want you to hear them slowly. The great thing is to prevent his doing anything. As long as he does not convert it into action, it does not matter how much he thinks about it. Chosen one, do you hear what the enemy was trying to accomplish? Not just to hurt you, but to paralyze you, to keep you so occupied with processing, with justifying, with defending yourself internally, that you never converted your truth into action, never declared what you know, never walked in the confidence of the witnessed. The confusion was the weapon, the doubt was the objective. And today, in this message, that weapon loses its power over you. Now let me take you to Joseph, because Joseph's story is the prototype of what was done to you. His brothers hurt him violently and deliberately. They stripped his coat, threw him into a pit, and sold him to strangers. And then, and this is the part that mirrors your situation exactly, they went home and performed grief for their father. They showed Jacob the coat, covered in goat's blood, and constructed a story where Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. They became the mourners. They became the victims of a tragedy. While the actual victim of their cruelty was in chains, heading toward Egypt, and their father was weeping, they sat at the table of their own narrative. And for years, that narrative held. For years, the false account was the official account. But God was watching, and the truth was not waiting forever. It was waiting for the moment when its release would serve the fullness of God's purpose. Chosen one, your truth is not waiting forever. It is waiting for its moment. And Psalm 37, verse 6, He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. not candlelight, dawn, noonday sun. The vindication that God brings when He moves is not a quiet correction in a small room. It is a dawn. It is a sunrise that no one can argue with, that comes whether or not anyone is ready for it, that illuminates everything it touches. Your vindication will not require you to convince anyone. It will arrive with the kind of clarity that makes convincing unnecessary. Chosen one, I want to stay in the waiting place with you for a moment, because what I have not yet addressed is the part that is hardest to talk about, the part between the wound and the vindication, the in-between, the season where the truth is on its way but has not yet arrived, where you know what happened, but the official account is still the false one, where you are holding something true inside you while the world around you holds something else. I want to speak to that season directly, because that is where many of you are living right now. And the in-between is not empty. The in-between is not wasted. The in-between is where God does the work that cannot be done any other way. Think about what happened between the moment Joseph was thrown into the pit and the moment his brothers bowed before him in Egypt. Years passed, decades. The false narrative, Joseph is dead, killed by a wild animal, was the official account for all of that time. The lie was not corrected in a week. It was not corrected in a year. It held for long enough that Jacob, Joseph's own father, had resigned himself to mourning a son who was actually sitting on a throne. And yet in all of those years, God was not absent from Joseph's story. He was present in Potiphar's house. He was present in the prison. He was present in every moment of the in-between, preparing the specific capacity, the specific wisdom, the specific authority that would be required for what God had prepared on the other side of the lie. Chosen one, the years of the false narrative were not lost years for Joseph. They were the years of preparation. And the preparation always takes as long as the purpose requires. Chosen one. I also want to speak about Esther, because Esther's situation contains an element that I think speaks directly to what is happening with July 14th. Esther was living in a world where a man named Haman had constructed a legal decree, a government document, with the authority of the king, signed and sealed, that declared the destruction of her people. The decree was the official record. It was law. And then in the space of one divine conversation with the king, the official record was reversed, not corrected slowly, not gradually improved, reversed. The decree that Haman had constructed was cancelled, and a new decree was written that reversed everything the first one had established. Chosen one, God can reverse official records. He can reverse the narrative that has been signed and sealed by the people who had the power to spread it. What has been officially declared against you is not beyond the reach of God's reversal. Not the story they told, not the reputation they damaged, not the relationships they influenced. None of it is beyond reversal. There is the moment in Esther chapter 8 that I want you to sit with. After the reversal, after the new decree had been written and sent, the scripture says that for the Jews there was light and gladness and joy and honor. Light, chosen one. In a place that had been marked for darkness, there was suddenly light. Not a little light, gladness and joy and honor. The vocabulary of celebration in a place that had been marked for mourning. This is the vocabulary God is preparing for your July 14th. Not just relief, not just resolution, light, gladness. The public recognition of something that has been private pain. Honor in the very places where your name was spoken with skepticism. This is what divine reversal looks like, and it is coming. Chosen one, C.S. Lewis wrote, "One more thing I need you to hear." In A Grief Observed, the rawest and most honest book he ever wrote, composed in the immediate aftermath of his wife Joy's death, Lewis wrestled with something that I believe speaks directly to what you have been living. He was wrestling with the gap between what people say and what is true, between the public account and the private reality. And he wrote with a grief-sharpened honesty, "The reality is so different from the mythology." He was writing about joy, about the way people spoke of her, and the way he knew her, and the chasm between those two things. And what I take from that sentence, in the context of your situation, is this: the mythology they built about you is not the reality. The performance they gave, the narrative they constructed, the account they distributed, that is mythology. The reality, what actually happened, what you actually are, what was actually done to you, that is held somewhere else, in you, in God, in the heavenly record. And eventually, reality and mythology cannot coexist forever. Reality always wins. Not because the righteous fight harder, but because reality is what actually exists, and mythology is just a story someone told. Chosen one, I want to give you something practical for the in-between, because this message is not designed to send you out full of prophetic expectation with no anchor for the days between now and when the truth surfaces. Here is your anchor. Stand in what you know, not in what you can prove, in what you know. There is a difference. What you know is yours. It is not subject to revision by anyone else's performance. It is not altered by who believed them over you. What happened, happened, and you were there. You do not need external validation of your internal reality. The reality is real, whether or not anyone else has yet acknowledged it. Stand in that. When the confusion tries to come back, and it will try return to what you know, not to what you can prove, not to what anyone else has confirmed, but to what you know in the place that the gaslighting never quite reached. That place exists in every chosen one, and that place is where God has been keeping the truth safe. Chosen one. One last biblical anchor before I bring you to the place of prayer. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, Jesus is standing in a confrontation with people who have brought a woman caught in sin. The accusers are certain. The case seems open and shut. And Jesus does something that changes the entire framework of the moment. He does not argue with the accusers. He does not build a counter case. He bends down and writes something in the dust. What he wrote, we are never told. And then he stands and says, "Let the one who is without sin cast the first stone." And one by one, beginning with the eldest, they all walked away. Chosen one, this is the pattern of divine truth entering a room. It does not argue with the false accusers point by point. It does not match their energy or meet their level. It simply introduces reality into the space. And reality has a way of emptying rooms of people whose position depends on the lie remaining hidden. The truth does not fight. It simply arrives. And when it arrives, those who built their position on the false account begin to quietly withdraw. It is already happening in the spiritual atmosphere around your situation. The withdrawal has already begun. You just have not seen it with your eyes yet. Chosen one. Let us talk about the concept of the court itself, because when we say that God is your witness, and when we speak of the courts of heaven, we are not talking about a metaphorical courtroom. We are talking about the highest legal authority in existence, a court where no false testimony can be entered into the record, because the judge is also the omniscient observer who was present when the events transpired. Lam 5s. Lewis, in his essays on Christian theology, wrote that the human obsession with justice, our deep burning desire to have our names cleared and the truth acknowledged, is not an accident of evolution. It is a direct reflection of the character of God. The reason it hurts so much to be falsely accused, the reason you feel that physical ache in your chest when someone plays the victim after hurting you, is because you were created in the image of a God of absolute justice. Your pain is not just personal, it is a theological reaction to the violation of truth. And this brings us to the significance of July 14th. Why does God use specific times? Because time is the canvas upon which His sovereignty is painted. He does not act outside of time, He enters it. He selects moments that seem ordinary to the world and fills them with supernatural consequence. July 14th is one of those marked coordinates. It is the boundary line where the season of carrying their weight ends and the season of God carrying your vindication begins. For months, or perhaps for years, you have been doing the heavy lifting of keeping yourself quiet, of choosing not to retaliate, of protecting people who did not protect you. But on this date, the responsibility shifts. The court goes into session. The evidence that has been quietly gathered in the spiritual realm is presented. And you, chosen one, are instructed to step back from the bench. You are no longer the lawyer defending your own life. You are the spectator watching the rightful king execute his judgment. Chosen one. Consider the story of Paul and Silas in the prison at Philippi. They had been beaten, publicly humiliated, and thrown into the deepest part of the jail with their feet in stocks. They were made to look like dangerous criminals, like threats to the peace of the city. The narrative of the magistrates was clear. These men are troublemakers. But at midnight, they did not pray for vengeance. They sang hymns. They praised God. And the scripture records that suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bonds were unfastened. The jailer, waking out of sleep and seeing the prison doors open, drew his sword and was about to kill himself. Supposing the prisoners had escaped, but Paul cried out, "Do not harm yourself, for we are all here." The earthquake was not just a rescue, it was a public vindication. The magistrates who had beaten them had to come the next day and publicly apologize and escort them out of the prison. The truth was not just revealed in secret, it was demonstrated in power. Chosen one, the earthquake is coming to the prison of your reputation. The foundations that were built on the lies of the enemy are about to shake. The bonds of shame and guilt that you carried for things you did not do are falling off right now. Not because you fought the guards, not because you broke the doors down, but because the atmosphere of praise and trust you maintained in the darkness has invited the presence of the deliverer. The very people who put you in that prison, who constructed the narrative that kept you bound, will have to watch as God opens the doors and escorts you out with honor. You will not leave in secret. You will walk out in the light of day, and the truth of who you are will be undeniable to everyone who watched you go in. Chosen one. Today, I want you to make a decision to stop replaying the conversations, to stop editing the emails you will never send, to stop defending yourself in the courtroom of your mind. Every time you replay the betrayal, you are allowing them to hurt you again. You are giving them free rent in the sanctuary of your thoughts. Let July 14th be the day you evict them. Let it be the day you say, "God, you were in the room. You have the record. I am handing the file to you." When you do that, you are not letting them off the hook. You are putting them on a hook they cannot wiggle off the hook of divine justice. You are stepping out of the way so that the Lord can fight for you. And when He fights, He does not lose. Walk today in the freedom of the vindicated. Walk in the peace of the truthfully known. The dawn is already breaking, and the truth is on its way home. Chosen one, July 14th. I want to speak about this date carefully, and I want to speak about it with faith, not as a prediction, not as a superstition, but as a recognition of something that God does consistently. He marks turning points. He sets timestamps in the lives of His people. He tells Abraham to look up at the stars on a specific night. He tells Moses to mark the doorposts on a specific evening. He tells Esther that she has come to her position for such a time as this, a specific named moment. And I believe that for the chosen one hearing this message, July 14th carries the weight of a divine timestamp. Something that has been hidden is positioned to surface. Something that has been suppressed is approaching the moment of release. Not because of anything you do, but because truth is a living force, and it has been moving toward this moment since the day the lie was first spoken. In the book of Acts, chapter 5, there is a story about a man named Ananias and his wife Sapphira. They made a false declaration to God, and to the church they performed a kind of spiritual deception, a public presentation that was constructed rather than true. And the hidden thing, the truth underneath the performance, was revealed not by any human investigation, not by anyone gathering evidence or building a case. It was revealed by the direct light of divine presence. The performance did not survive the light. Chosen one, the performance constructed against you does not have to survive your effort to dismantle it. It only has to survive until the light arrives, and the light is coming. And so I declare this over you today, chosen one. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to build your case. You do not need to make sure the right people hear your side of the story before July 14th arrives. The courts of heaven already have the record. Your righteousness is already on file. The truth you carried alone, the truth that no one asked to see, is fully documented in a system that has never lost a file and never altered a record. Your job right now is not to fight for your credibility. Your job is to stand in the peace of one who knows they have been witnessed, and to wait for the dawn, chosen one. You were seen. You are known. The record is kept. Let me say those three things again, and let them land in a different place than your mind. Let them land in your body, in the place where the wound lives. You were seen. You are known. The record is kept. Walk in the identity of someone whose truth has been witnessed by the only court that ultimately matters. Not the court of public opinion, which shifts. Not the court of mutual friends, who are given incomplete information. The court of the God who was in the room, who saw the tears before they fell, who heard the words before they were spoken, who knew the intention behind the performance. That court has already ruled, and it has ruled in your favor, chosen one. Let me pray with you. Father God, I bring before you the chosen one who has been hurt and then made to feel guilty for the wound. I thank you that you were in the room. I thank you that the record of what happened is held in heaven beyond revision, beyond corruption, beyond the reach of any narrative. I release today, on behalf of this chosen one, the weight of the burden of proof. They do not need to prove themselves to any human court. You are their witness. You are their advocate. I declare that July 14th is a divine marker, a timestamp of shifting, and that what has been hidden will begin to surface in ways that require no human effort and no human vindication campaign. I declare peace over this chosen one, not the peace of someone who has won an argument, but the peace of someone who has been seen by God. In Jesus' name, Amen. Chosen one, the morning is coming. You are going to look back on this season, on the confusion, on the disorientation, on the grief of being disbelieved, and you are going to see the hand of God moving through it, not around it, through it. The very thing they used to try to silence your voice, the false narrative, the stolen credibility, God is going to use as the backdrop against which your vindication will be undeniable. The greater the performance of the lie, the more dramatic the arrival of the truth. You are not abandoned in this. You are being witnessed, and the witness is about to speak. Chosen one. If this message has reached the part of you that has been waiting for someone to believe what you know to be true, I want to invite you into this community. Subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell, because every week we bring the wisdom of C.S. Lewis and the prophetic truth of Scripture to the chosen ones who are still holding on, still carrying the truth that no one asked to see, still believing in a vindication they have not yet watched arrive with their eyes. You belong here. Share this message with the chosen one in your life who is carrying this specific wound, the one who has been hurt and then made to feel like the problem. Send this to them. Let them know they are not alone. Let them know God was there. Chosen one. Go forward today carrying this. What was done in secret cannot survive in the light. The truth you carry has not expired. The record held in heaven has not been tampered with. July 14th is a marker. Mark it in your spirit, not with anxiety, but with expectation. You do not need to do anything except stand in the peace of one who has been witnessed by God. The lie cannot outlast the truth. The performance cannot outlast the dawn. And the dawn, your dawn, chosen one, is already breaking on the horizon. Go in peace. The truth is on its way home.